Hello and welcome to another episode of Community Update. I am Promise Accord. Today we begin in Alberta, where history was made as two black Canadians, originally from Nigeria, were sworn into different political offices. Honorable K.C. Madu was sworn in as Deputy Premier of Alberta, making him the first ever black Deputy Premier in the history of any province in Canada.
I, Kelechi Madu, do solemnly and sincerely promise and swear.
And Professor Ako Ufodike, another Nigerian Canadian, was appointed Deputy Minister for Trade and Immigration. And lately, if you have been following the news here in Canada, you will remember that the two of the newly elected city councillors in Ontario are Nigerian-born Canadians who migrated here just a few years ago. As the black population continues to contribute to Canada's heritage, one would wonder is it time for African immigrants to take politics a bit more seriously here in Canada? To talk more about politics, I have in the studio Kunle Fakirsi, who is the past president of the Association of Nigerians here in Nova Scotia. It's good to have you here, Kunle.
Thank you, Promise. It's a pleasure to be here.
As always. And so when you heard this news, Kunle, I'm sure you were excited. Tell me, what was going through your mind?
I was very happy, especially for Honorable K.C. Madu. You know, remember just a few short months ago, he was tied up in a political firestorm, but he survived that, and now he's gotten a new position, which is very good. So I'm happy for him. Happy for all people of African descent here in Canada, because those are good examples for us.
Right. As Africans here in Nova Scotia,
right,
we can imagine how excited the people in Alberta and Ontario are. But how do you think we can replicate that here in Nova Scotia, and how can people be involved?
Well, that's a very good question. First of all, I would like to acknowledge the fact that here in Canada, Canada is a very receptive country, and we must acknowledge that and give kudos to the Canadians for allowing people from other climes, other countries, other nationalities to even come here and integrate and aspire to political office. It's not an easy thing. Things like this cannot happen in so many countries of the world. So we have to first understand and acknowledge that. So secondly, I would say in our own little way, as the African Nova Scotian community here, we've actually been doing it. You know, an example that comes to mind right now is the example of MLA Ali Douale, who was elected under the platform of the Liberal Party at the last provincial elections. I believe he was born in Somalia. He wasn't born here in Canada. So, but today he's a member of Nova Scotia's Legislative Assembly. And I also know there are one or two people of African descent. Another example that comes to mind is George Mbamalu, born in Nigeria, who also ran, although he did not win, to be the local councillor in his local area in Cole Harbour. So there are examples, just that now that some people have done it in bigger provinces, the awareness is heightened. And it's time for us here to take the bull by the horns and figure out how we can be more involved in the political process.
Talking about awareness, some would think that that little segment of Africans participating in politics isn't enough. Do you think there's reasonable awareness politically for people here?
I would say maybe not a lot, especially for people in our community, because don't forget that where we're coming from, most of us from African countries, especially recent arrivals, the way we think, the way we are brought up to think is that politics is a dirty game. Hey, don't touch it, don't touch it. You have people that want to run for office and their family members are actively discouraging them because they think politicians are bad people. But it's really not like that. Everything is about politics. So now that we find ourselves in an environment where there's a bit more, where the playing field is level, if you will, it's a good opportunity for us to be part of the political process at the grassroots, by volunteering, by belonging to community groups, and by actually joining political parties. We have the Liberal Party, we have the Progressive Conservatives, the PC Party, and we also have the NDP. Look them up, you know, research about them, figure out which ones appeal to you from what they stand for, and by all means, join the parties.
I agree with you. And we also understand that the number of immigrants here, especially the African community, is growing rapidly.
That's right.
You know, and one would think that they need to be part of what's going on, so they can be on the table to make decisions that
Right.
impact them. What do you say to that group that is undecided yet?
That is undecided. Okay. So first of all, if you've been following the news last week, you would have heard that Statistics Canada released the latest census figures.
Right.
So I got a few things from the census figures. First of all, for the first time in the history of Canada, almost 25% of the people that call Canada home now, either as citizens and permanent residents, they are actually foreign born. Almost 25%. Now, that means for the first time ever, almost a quarter of people here in Canada are foreign born. But it doesn't stop there. Some countries are like the top 5 or top 6 countries.
Right.
India, the Philippines, China, Syria, and guess what? Nigeria.
Oh, interesting.
So, and it does not even stop there. A lot more of these people that are coming in, of which Nigeria, an African country, is part of the top 5 now. A lot more of them are now choosing to stay in Atlantic Canada. So that means the population of African-born people here is increasing on a steady basis.
Right.
So the more we come in, the more we also need to realize that not only should we come in and create our own economies, make lives comfortable for ourselves, how do we contribute? How do we give back?
Absolutely.
How do we serve? Leadership is all about service.
I agree.
Joining politics, political parties to serve, to volunteer, to help the people to move forward causes that will benefit your community is a good example, is a good way to do that. So I would encourage everyone that has the capacity to actually go ahead and join parties and be a part of the process. Yes.
Yeah. But so what do you envisage for the future of immigrants, African immigrants here in Nova Scotia? What are they going to look like politically? Are they going to be involved from what you're seeing currently in Alberta, in Ontario, and a little bit here in Nova Scotia? What's the future like, you think?
I think the future is bright. Permit me to use an analogy. Remember, I think 2 years ago, or when Toronto Raptors won the NBA championships for the first time,
Okay.
everywhere exploded. Every kid wanted to play basketball. Everywhere people were buying basketball, and because now they see a Canadian team do it for the first time, and they know it can be done.
Yeah.
The same way now that we have the likes of Alido Ale, we have the likes of Ako Ufodike, we have the likes of Ayo Woduni, and we have the lady Haliru, and even Casey Madu himself, that were born in Africa, that probably went to these universities you and I attended back home in Africa, and they are here now, and they joined politics, and they have actually attained high office. People like you and other people watching might actually be thinking, hey, okay, I can actually do it.
Right.
I'm going to do it. Because the best example that you can set is to see someone like you actually do something. That gives you the confidence. There's no morale booster that's greater than that.
I agree with you. But those are examples from Alberta, examples from Ontario.
Right.
Can you be the next example? What are your plans politically?
Well, for me, I would rather prefer to continue to be the person that holds the door open for people to walk through. You know, some people also have to do that.
Absolutely.
You know, everybody cannot be the person that's front and center, but don't forget that some people are working in the background to just hold the door open for everyone to walk through. And then most of the times they are covered by the door, but they're happy with that.
Right.
So I would prefer to kind of like that, be in the background, just you know, encourage people and sensitize them on the possibilities.
Absolutely. So on a final note, what will be your thoughts to Africans here in Nova Scotia when it comes to politics? And what message you also have for Africans who are back home and doing politics the other way around, instead of making it something like sportsmanship?
Well, Africa is evolving. You know, something happened recently in Kenya. You know, in Kenya, we had the election where the establishment candidate did not win. But the guy that won was Ruto. Okay. Ruto was an outlier, you know, young guy who nobody thought was going to win. But somehow the youth, the masses came together and said, you know what, let's put this guy in, and he won.
Right.
Now, if you look at other countries in Africa, similar movements, there's a groundswell of movements. Another example that comes to mind is, for instance, Nigeria, where we have 2 establishment candidates, but we have a third candidate who's really giving them a run for their money.
Nice.
And everybody thinks that this outsider actually has a shot at becoming the next president of Nigeria. So, and people are becoming more aware that really you don't need to lose your life in the political process. You know, as Africans move to diaspora and they continuously interact with people they left back home, and people are sharing videos and talking about, hey, today was election day in Canada. Nobody even came to my house to tell me to go do something silly just because I wanted to vote. Everything is going smoothly and nice. People are beginning to see why we should also toe those lines in Nigeria. And one of the candidates is seriously talking about diaspora voting and things that are alien to typical African societies as far as politics is concerned. So I believe the changes are coming and we will get there.
2 questions in one.
Well, my message for people that are here, that are Africans, people of African descent that are here, is as much as possible, please be a part of the political process. You need to understand that you are no longer back home, where politics is construed to be a dirty and dangerous game. Here, nobody is going to hunt you down. You're serving. As long as you come to the table with clean hands and altruistic motives, you will be able to find your niche. So for people back home that also play politics like do or die, that mess with the people's commonwealth, I would encourage you to take a leaf, to borrow a leaf from other countries like Canada, where things are done the right way and where everybody understands that politics is for you to serve the people and not for the people to serve you.
Interesting. Kunle, thank you so much for coming to the studio.
Thank you so much, Promise. Always a pleasure.
And that was Kunle Fakiesi, past president, Association of Nigerians here in Nova Scotia. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel to get updates on happenings in the African community here in Nova Scotia. Till I come your way again, I am Promise Okoy. Just take care.